what is constant and what is absolute in architecture is that we create spaces.
His work has put emphasis on the process more than the outcome, and this process is inspired by the relationship between man and nature. Architect Shabbir Unwala has been practicing architecture and interior design for the last 31 years and went on to establish his own firm called Design Workshop in 1990. Among his many projects include the Stone House, the Waterfall House, and Machan in Lonalava.
Great. So I call it architecture of the mountains and on the mountains. So that's what I would call my today's subject. So when you're building on a mountain, what are the factors affecting buildings on hills? Yeah. So you have a geological factors, you have a climatological factors, and you have natural hazard factors. So these are the three things that start affecting your building. The geological factors is, suppose a mountain is built out of, is just soil. Yeah. So what happens? Because there could be landslide. And if you follow some news, I mean, 15 years back, there was a village that got completely wiped out near Baja Caves because there was so much of rainfall, and because people cut the trees, that the soil becomes loose and then it slides down. In fact, I think around 3 years back, it happened in Kerala also. We had a similar problem. And a few years back, we had the same problem in Kedarnath. So those are the geological factors that start affecting what you build on it, on a mountain, if you're not being careful about it. It's climatological factors and natural hazard factors. So when you say geological factors, there's a slope gradient, slope stability, and waterlogging. When you look at climatological factors, rainfall and wind, and natural hazard factors, earthquake and landslide. So these are the factors that start affecting your building. And if you're not being sensitive to it, then nature gives it back to you. And when it gives it back to you, it is really, really with its full fury that you feel it. Yeah, there are different typologies built on a mountain slope. So suppose you foundation the entire building on the same level. So then what you do is start cutting the mountain, make it a flat ground, and then you do your building. Or you can do something like this, that the building is on 2 levels. If your building is much bigger, you start putting it up into 2 parts. Or it could be step back configuration. So depending on the gradients, depending on the mountain, depending on the size of the buildings. So these are what a different type of typology which people follow to build on a mountain. Number 4 is step back and setback configuration. The other option that a lot of people do is create an artificial platform with retaining walls, and you put a building on it. Or parts of the building supported on stilt. So you can see this is all on one level, but you have these very tall stilt that tries to bring the building on the same level. Now, these are the things that happens when, it depends also on the functionality. If you need a large open hall or something on the same level, and you're not able to get it because of the slopes and all, then you start doing things like this. So what happens is, whatever you do, the moment you start cutting the mountain, you start getting problems. And I just want to share a few of the slides and a video of how the nature's fury is completely unbridled when it's not done sensitively. Can you see this? The whole villages get wiped out. This was in Kedarnath. You see this building on a stilt that I spoke about? The whole mountain has been cut, and this is a way. So this is what had happened in Kedarnath. Look at the way the building has completely cracked down. So it's a very heartbreaking scenes. This is video from Kedarnath, what happened. So you could see the fury of nature, what it does, when you build on a mountain, and if you're not, so you have a more responsibility, because what you build, and if you don't build it sensitively, it means people's lives are lost. We as an architect are kind of responsible for not being respectful to nature and not designing with nature. Nature allows you to do certain things. You do it when you design it with nature, then it's a coexistence. Otherwise, what you're trying to do is enforce your will onto nature and say, just because I can do it, I will do it. And then at some point, the nature gives it back to you. So what are the design parameters that we at Design Workshop employ to make our buildings? So the first one of the big mantras for us is the act of creation should not become an act of destruction. If I'm going to build something, I do not want to destroy the nature around. I don't want to destroy the mountain around me just to make a building. So that is kind of, and if you look at it in nature, all the animals and the birds and all, they make their own houses, they make their own homes. They do not destroy nature. You look at the anthills, they're unbelievable. They're like as complex as the cities that we create. But look at how beautifully they do it. So yeah, so one of one of the mantras is that the act of creation should not become an act of destruction. Flora and fauna so sustainability should be achieved by reducing the building footprint. Because when you reduce your building footprint, it means that, like a tree, that's the best example that one can think about in nature. Look at a tree. Look at the trunk of the tree. Look at the footprint and look at the crown of the tree. It's humongous. So how does tree do that? And that has been kind of an inspiration for me, that when you build it like a tree, So minimum footprint. Using recyclable materials to achieve minimum carbon footprint. Now, when one says this, one really means it. It's not kind of a feel-good kind of a talk, that one really is committed to how you use recyclable materials, or you use materials that can be recycled. So one of the kind of things that we do is recycle steel, reclaim wood, glass, cement fiber slabs. These are the kind of things that can be recycled. You have a trek deck sheeting that can be recycled. When you take a RCC building or a brick building, when you want to recycle, you do not get to recycle anything except the windows, a few things. But here, if your building is completely made out of recyclable material, or you can recycle it, then you really have a green building. So I'm going to share a few of our projects and show you the kind of strategies that what we spoke about, the mantra that we spoke about, how we have been employing it in our projects. So we have a Machan, which was done in 2006. Then we have Eye on the Lake, the Glass House, 2014. This is, we call it the Eagle's Nest. And then we have the Waterfall House that got completed in 2019. And they're all on a very different kind of a terrain. So Machan is built in a forest. And when I say forest, it's a real forest. It's like a rainforest on a Western Ghat. What you see is Eye on the Lake is bang on the lake, Khadakwasla in Pune. Glass House, we have done it again in a forest in Nasik on a Trimbakeshwar road. Eagle's Nest is in Pauna in Lonalava. And Waterfall House is in Karjat. It's bang on a... So the Waterfall House, there is no land, there's only a waterfall. And we built it on a waterfall. We've been working on different kind of slopes, So you look at 30 degrees, which is kind of a, it's not very steep. Then slope ranging from 30 to 45 degrees. So slope ranging 30 degrees, we have done Eye on the Lake. On 30 to 45 degrees, the steep slopes, we have done Machan, and we have done the Glass House. So Machan is what we're gonna start talking about. That's the first project that I would like to share. In fact, this project was taken by CNN in 2007 as 23 ideas for the sustainable future. And this was the only project that CNN selected from India. The rest were from all around the world, from Europe to America to Far East to Africa. So they have taken different ideas that what's the future hold for us and how we can build that is very sustainable. So I'm going to talk about the story of Machan and the fig tree. So there was this, so when the client approached us, he wanted to make a house for himself. He kind of retired and he had this property that he had been nurturing for And I'm talking 2006, he'd been nurturing it for like 17 years then. Now it's almost 30 years. And when he had got the property, there was not a single tree. Can you imagine 25 acres of barren piece of land? Because the locals, the tribals, would cut the trees for the firewood. So what the whole land had kind of a, like 3 or 4 feet of stubs of trees were there and nothing else. So the only thing that he did was that he just fenced the property. He stopped people from coming inside and he let the trees grow. And, nature needs a little bit of hand holding, and nature is extremely generous and extremely forgiving. And within 17 years, the whole forest had grown. Yeah. So since he came to me, he said that he wanted to make it on a flat ground. He never thought about a tree house. But I said, then you have such a beautiful forest. Why do you want to build it on a flat ground? So he said, what do you suggest? I said, let's make a tree house. So he said, give me a week to think about it. So after a week, he gave me a call and he said, okay, there is this wild fig tree. It's in this part of country, it's called umbar, and umbar is considered to be a holy tree. So he said, I have made a temporary machan on it, bamboo machan, and go and have a look at it. And if you like it, we will build it over there. So I went and looked over there, and it was beautiful because you could see the complete forest, and you can see the valley, and you can see the mountain on the opposite side. I'm sure that some of you must have visited Machan and gone and stayed over there. So it's beautiful. And then it's like a tree top, because you're right at the top and all the trees that you see is below you. And I love the site. So I said, yeah, let's do it. So that started the story of the Machan. But he told me, Mr. Huja, the owner, he says, no cutting trees, no cutting a single branch. And I said, that's fantastic, because he's an extremely sensitive person. So as I said, that my inspiration is a tree. A tree is nothing but an inverted pyramid. If you analyze a tree, it's an inverted pyramid. So I said, let's make a house like a tree. So you have 4 pillars and the tree grows and you build it around the tree. So the tree becomes heart of the house. So this is how, so you can see the slides, The first is the inverted pyramid, the tree in the center, and the whole house happens around it now. It's like a C-shaped plan. So the floor of the Machan is 45 feet from the lowest point. And this is what we call it, a crow's nest, is 75 feet from the ground. So this is a plan. This is a living, dining, and there's just a partition and there's a bed over here, a toilet, pantry, and another toilet over here. And this is the entrance. So these are the elevations. Then we put a hanging room over here. That's a very interesting room. It just hangs because it is hanging from the top. It is not supported from down. So you can see it from the lowest point, it goes up to 45 feet. What we have made this out of is steel, which we bought recycled steel. We didn't buy virgin steel, we bought recycled steel. The flooring is wood, and wherever the bathrooms are there, we just put slabs of stones. The walls, most of it is glass, but wherever there's a partition wall, again we use stones that were kept vertically. The roof is mango tiles. So there's no RCC, there's no, so it's what we call is a completely a dry construction. This is a bridge. So this is a ramp that you see. Can you see the arrow? So that's a ramp that you come up from. This is a bridge that connects to the pantry. And the tree is right in the center. You can see the glass of the living room. Now you can see the tree going through in the center, and the house happens around it. You can also see the slabs of stone. Okay. So so the flooring is just made of, you just put slabs of stones and that's good enough, So this is the ceiling of the living room that you see. And this is the hanging room. This is the entrance veranda. This is a ramp that takes you up to the house. This is a hanging room. And you can see the black color is nothing but wood. It's a Malaysian sal. And this balcony, you can see the flooring. That is a ship deck. Ship deck is all the ships, they are made out of steel. So to walk on it, they put a ship decking wood and they have cutouts over there. So when you sit over there, you can see the forest floor. And again, it's a recycled material. So that's a ramp coming up. You can see this wooden thing. That's a drawbridge. So in the evening, you can just close it. You can see this cable over there. It's just like a London Bridge. You can just close this thing so nobody can get inside. Yeah, this is a slide that you can see it's going up. So that's the entrance veranda. Now we are inside the house. And when you enter on the left-hand side, you can see the umber tree, the wild fig tree. You can see this tree going inside the house. So we literally did not cut a single branch, not even a single leaf, So that's my main entrance. This is a toilet. And you climb the steps and that's a sleeping balcony. So now you can see the main house. You can see this tree getting inside. You can see the seating over there. And that's a toilet door. If you notice, all the glass is sloping outside. So the reason that why we did this is because, if you keep the glass straight, the birds, they don't realize that they can't see the glass. So they come and bang into it. And a lot of birds die because of the bird hit on the glass. In fact, I had heard a podcast which said in America, 2 to 3 million birds die because they go and hit the skyscrapers and they don't realize it. So the whole idea was that you keep the glass sloping outside and then they realize that there is something over there. So we have last 13, 14 years, we've not had a single bird hit. Though it's a glass house, it's made out of glass. The second thing that happens is in the night, you don't see your own reflection. Otherwise, it becomes like a barber shop. You go to a glass house and you put on the lights in the night and it's your reflection. So this is the view that you get of the forest and the mountains. We can see all the lights. Again, they're all recycled. These are all ship lights. So whatever we could buy, something that is recycled, that was one of the things that we decided, that we will not buy anything. As much as possible, everything should be recycled or recyclable. You can see the shipping deck, So this is the living room. You can see this partition, that's where the bed has been kept. That's your bathroom. That's where you enter from. This is a staircase that takes you to the sleeping balcony. That's another toilet, and then you go down to the hanging room. That's a toilet. Now we are going down to the hanging room. Now here you can actually see the whole structure. You can see these pipes supporting it. So when you're on the upper floor, it's like a tree top. You can see the tree below you. But when you come down, it almost feels like a nest because all the branches and everything is around you. So it's a very cute little room, and it's a very different kind of a feeling that you get over here. And you can see these stones on the wall. Yeah. So these are very interesting because these are fossil stones. You can see the prints of the trees, and these are like millions of years back when the stone was being formed. You can see the prints of trees, leaves, and sometimes you can even see the fish and all. So these are called fossil stones. Now you can see the view from here. It is as if you're in a nest now. You're on the tree. You're not on a tree top. Now we are going up. So now from the sleeping balcony, you can look down. So it's a very different kind of a house, in the sense there are no bedroom, don't have walls, they don't have doors or anything. It's just that you keep them in a location and then you don't need it. So it's a very, very different kind of a thing. Now here you can see you can see the roof of the house. So it's a very different space. As I said in the beginning that, architecture is a space, we are space makers at the end of the day. And how you can give different experiences with your building is that you're always striving for. This is from the crow's nest. We can see the tree over here and the house around it. Can you see this? This is the location of the house in the totality. Yeah, so this is Machan. This is what we started doing in 2006. Then the next one to follow was Eye on the Lake. So this is the best thing about this house is it belongs to an architect. And she saw Machan and she said that you designed my house. And I said, fantastic, because it's a privilege. Normally non-architects come to you to design something. And when an architect comes and says, you design it, it's like an honor. So I said, fantastic. And the best thing about, she didn't interfere. She said, do what you want to do. I said, it's an ideal client. You have a location which is fantastic, bang on the lake. You can see in the section, the water comes right till the bottom of the property. So when I was a student, I'd heard in those days, there were no podcasts and all, no YouTube. I'd heard interview with Glenn Murcutt. And I'm talking like in 80s, So Glenn Murcutt was not a Pritzker Prize winner in those days. And he said something very, very nice. He says, I like my buildings to be fragile, but not flimsy. So there's a difference. A flower is very fragile, but it's not flimsy. Yeah. He says it's almost like a bird sitting on a tree. And that image stuck in my head. And when I went to visit the site and I was walking around with Aarti and brilliant, because this part of the lake, see, I don't know if you guys have been to Khadakwasla, you don't get a horizon. I mean, you don't get a deeper horizon. It's like Pauna, you get a very deep horizon, but not Khadakwasla. But from this point where we build it, you can see for miles together, because the lake goes all the way to the other dam, which is beyond it, which is Panshet, so which is the water comes from Mahabaleshwar, Panchgani to Panshet, and from Panshet it comes to Khadakwasla. So that was this image. And the other thing about this property was it was beautiful on all the four sides. So now your main focus is your lake, but you do not want to miss out on the sides of it. So how do you do that? So you can see this. This is a roof plan with a lake practically touching the property, but there's a drop. So it's just like a bird sitting on two legs. So what we decided was your main focus is the lake, but we will have a glass all around and give the slats. So that becomes, it's like a secondary view. The primary view is your lake, and the secondary view is the sides of the property. I'm quite fascinated of how you enter a building, because there are many ways of doing it. And one of the things that I found is, kind of a transition, like in the Machan also, you saw the ramp going up. It's like a ship ramp, that when you go to a ship, you have these ramp. Here also what I decided was to make a ramp over here. So then that you're going from outside to inside, and that's a bridge. So the bridge plays a very important part. So you can see this, you can see the vista for miles together. So this is where you enter from. So I just continued the same language, that the wood, you can see these slats, they just become part of the, so you don't change the language, you just change the material. So this is a catwalk, because even in Machan, what I did was give them a catwalk. So you need to clean the glass and all. How do you clean it? You do not create a problem, and you do not want a problem that can't be resolved. So everywhere what we try is give the catwalk, because when you give such large glasses, you need them to be clean. So this is the inside. So Aarti at that point of time, she had just, her son was like 4 or 5 years old, and she said that let's make a small mezzanine for him. So this is the small mezzanine and he would love this space, because the scale keeps changing. Children like smaller spaces, tighter spaces. So this is his little bedroom. And because the space was so tight, we designed an accordion door, So it's just small panels that just pulls. It doesn't take too much of space. So that's Eye on the Lake. Now I'm going to talk about the glass house. In glass house, what we did was, again, it's in a forest on a very steep slope. And there was a very small kind of a flattish ground that was only available. So again, we took was 4 columns and cantilevered the whole house from there. But what I tried doing in this is, I took part of the load of the roof. The roof is suspended. Yeah. So you have this truss. The roof goes at the same angle, and then from the top it is suspended. So this is my plan. It's like a, so this, you can see these 4 columns over here. This is which holds the whole house. So you have a living room, bedroom, dining kitchen, and a bedroom. So you can see the context of this. And this whole land, the whole mountain and the forest is a government forest. So this is like the last privately held land. And this forest continues up to Gangapur Dam. If somebody from Nasik, if somebody is there from Nasik, they will know what I'm talking about. So now you see this, So you enter over here, and then there's a staircase that takes you up to the main space. So they all open into little balconies. Again, you can see a catwalk. Again, you will see that all my glass is sloping outside. Okay, now we will go to this house in Pauna. This is again a very beautiful piece of land. In fact, this property is, Pauna is pretty big. It's like a boomerang. If you look at it on Google Earth, you'll realize it's a boomerang. And this is right where so there are no backwaters over here. This is right where you get a maximum view of the lake. And this is a house that we built. So the drop of so again, the whole principle that you don't cut and you don't fill, you do not destroy the flora and the fauna. Not only that, we do not even want to touch there are streams that are flowing underneath the surface. So we don't want to do any harm. So again, with a minimum 4 or 5 columns, we designed the whole house, and it's a pretty big house. So the distance that would go from was 6 feet to 35 feet, So the maximum height at this corner was 35 feet, and at this point it's 6 feet. So this is the structure. Everything was built in a factory, brought over here and assembled. So this is the top, what we call it, the eagle's nest, You can go up over there and see it. The building has been turned around in a way to maximize the view, because from this wing, you can see the lake with islands. And this side, you can see the lake going right up to Hilton Silim. So it's, you skew the building a little bit and you can maximize the view. So again, the entry, it's through a ramp. You come into this and you come into the central vestibule foyer, which is double height. And then you go, number 3 is your living room. 5 is your kitchen. Outside the kitchen is the dining. And 8 is the master bedroom. Again, from the foyer, you go on the left-hand side. You get a library, come games room, bedroom, and again a master bedroom. When you go down, you come into the gym. And then when you go up, you come to the eagle's nest. So these are the sections. So this is approach. So you can see the sun shining through the base of the building, You go in from here and you come into the central space. So this is my central vestibule. And you get this little window that just captures the view of the lake, just a glimpse. This is this huge deck. So your living room opens into it and the bedroom also opens into it. So what you see on the opposite side is a Tungi Fort. On this side, you can see right up to Hotel Silim, because this is where the lake ends over here. And on the right-hand side is the lake with the islands. So the last one that I'm going to talk about is a waterfall house. So this is when I say it's a waterfall, there is no land as such, In fact, that when I show you the plan and I'll explain it to you, you have to park your car down and you have to walk up, because there was no land. And the client, when he bought the land, he saw the property and he liked it. So in the night, the client was telling me, Satish was telling me, at 10:30 in the night, the broker gives him a call and he says, okay, sir, are you sure you want to buy this land? Because nobody's buying it. So he thought that the client got carried away and he says, yes, yes, yes. So he was so skeptical that how can anybody buy a land like this? Because there is no land, you can't build anything. And then he did not even come to me. He went to a friend of mine who's an architect in Nasik. And when he went to him, my friend told him that you go to Shabbir and he will do a better job, because he knows how to build on a mountain. And that's how I got this job. Okay, so you can see this pizza slice. Yeah. you enter from here. And these contours, by the time you go on the top, is 30-meter difference. When you say 30 meter, it's 100 feet. So this is, and there's a waterfall that starts from here and goes down. So the challenge was that how do you build on a, I mean, the most iconic building of the 20th century is the falling water. Yeah. And then you say, okay, here's a chance that you get to build on a waterfall. So how do you crack the design? So I thought that, when you, it is much more exciting to see the water coming towards you. I had gone to Niagara Falls, and they have this boat that they take you right where the waterfall is, where it comes down. And then you realize the power of water. I mean, it's like, it was deafening and it was scary. So I said, if this is a waterfall, it's a seasonal waterfall, but when it starts, it's, my God, the quantum of water that flows through this thing. So I said, fantastic, that I would like to see the water at the eye level. In the falling water, you see the water going from underneath it. You do not experience it coming towards you. So the whole idea was that you are at the eye level with the waterfall, and then it passes from underneath you and then it goes. So that was the whole idea. And because it forms kind of a valley, the house is almost like a bridge. And he loves birds. So this is an aviary that we designed for him. You see the section. So it's basically on 2 points. It's a house which is like 4,000 square feet and just supported on 2 points. I'll show you some of the construction photographs. So you can see the scale, this guy over here, and it's completed. So here also you enter through a bridge. There's a bridge that you walk over the waterfall, you come into a veranda, and then you enter the house. So this is a video of how the whole construction happened, because it's pretty interesting. Thank you. So that was the last bit. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir. That was an amazing presentation. Really interesting projects.
Thank you, Ayushi. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Like them very much. I really appreciate the work. It was amazing. It was indeed amazing.
Thank you.
And the structural, this thing, they all resolved so simply. I mean, they never dominated the idea of the space, living space above. It just simply supported it. That's all. Though the spans were very big, but then still the structural things didn't overpower. That's what I felt, that space only was given the importance, the perseverance of the space inside and the nature, like that was at the priority for the design, and that was really very nicely achieved. Very nice.
Thank you very much. As I said in the beginning, that these are your means, you know. A lot of time what happens is people confuse between the means and the ends. So I try to keep my focus that architecture is a space-making device and the structure is a subservient. It should be beautiful, but it should still be subservient, that it should not start dominating your architecture, because then the focus gets shifted and a lot of time your ego gets into the picture, because then you want to impress people with your structure. So I try to keep the structure as subservient as possible, at the same time solving the problems that are at hand.
Who was your structural consultant?
Normally what we do is we do our structures in ourselves, and then we appoint a structural consultant to, because you basically in college, you know, if you're licentious, you can learn the basic principles of structures, you know?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, and then to get the sizes right and all, we appoint a structural engineer who then analyzes what we're talking about. And that's the way we practice, because you want to be, a lot of time what happens, ma'am, is that most of the engineers are pretty scared to do something like this. So unless you do not resolve the problem for them, they will not use, they imagine they are too tied up with the IS code, that the IS code doesn't allow this and IS code doesn't allow that. But once you resolve the issues and show them that these are my basic, like the Waterfall House, it's a propped cantilever. So it's a propped cantilever, it's extremely safe. Though it looks, you have a cantilever of 40 feet, but there is a 40 feet which is going behind, or 50 feet which is going behind. So it doesn't matter. So that's the kind of thing that we resolve all the forces, and then we appoint an engineer who works out the calculations and then tells us whether this is safe or not. And if he wants to change the sizes, then we do that.
Yeah, many times people are just scared of taking cantilevers, but if you have a proper counterweight, counter length, counterweight, it doesn't matter at all. And
absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah, very nice.
No, I would request all the students that please pay attention to structures, because as an architect, if you do not understand structures, then whatever you design, most of the time your structural engineer will shoot it down. He will say it's not possible. So, you know, how a lot of your dreams will stay unbuilt because you do not have a working understanding of structures. I mean, we do not have to do the calculations and all, but you should know how to resolve the forces. If you know how to resolve the forces, and all colleges, the curriculum is so good that we get a pretty decent idea of how to resolve the forces. We do in engineering college too, but most of the time, for some strange reason, that students get scared of structures and they think it's something that is beyond them. And as an architect, you just make designs and somebody else will solve your problems. Unfortunately, you will find very few people to solve your problems. So as they say, you got to be the master of the ship that you're sailing. You are a captain of the ship. And as a captain, know everything.
And steel specifically is a very nice material, and I mean, it can be slender and strong, so you can use it very nicely.
Absolutely, absolutely. You know, so unfortunately in India, we have not been able to explore steel as a material. And I hope more and more people start using it and they will realize the beauty of this material.
And again, it's sustainable also, totally recyclable.
Exactly,
So,
completely.
absolutely
yeah.
perfect
Yeah.
material for
Yeah.
modern days.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Hear us?
Hello, Shabbir bhai. Can you hear me? Sorry.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Shabbir bhai, I want to, it is impossible to find words to thank you. I love everything that you showed, every drawing that you showed, every section drawing that you showed that actually has a great impact on design. I like the way you showed a board in form of drawing and then actually on the hill. Okay? And then you took us inside it. I think that's a great experience. You have actually been successful in converting your concepts from drawing board to the site. And I think the graphic design, the drawing skill, and the perfection with which you have actually expressed is so strong. I think it is impossible for anybody to be able to not understand design when you give them the drawing. I think that's an excellent skill.
I wanted to ask, what was the greatest challenge you faced while designing the contour and especially while laying the foundations on the slope, having a principle that an act of construction cannot be an act of destruction?
Yeah. Hi, Ananya. It's a good question. So this was the first time that I was making a steel structure. And so what we had decided was that because this machan, there is no electricity, there is no road. I mean, the road only comes to a certain point. So no electricity. So we said we will make the whole house in Pune in a factory. It will be a nut and bolt structure. And it will be brought to the site and then we will reassemble it. So that was the strategy that we thought we will do it. So when the structure was being built in Pune, I would come to Pune, I would have a look at it. And on the site, so we looked around the tree. The challenge that happens is when you are digging the foundation, you do not want to cut the roots of the tree. So that was one of the challenge. What is the size of the footings that you take that you do not cut the main roots of the tree? Otherwise, the tree will fall.
Yes.
The second challenge was that because it's on a mountain, it's a sloping side. When you start digging, if I go down 8 feet on one side, the other side is 12 feet.
Yes.
Because it's a sloping thing. The challenge that happens is you do not want the soil to fall into the pit that you are digging. The third part was that when you're doing it on a mountain, you got to go to the rock, and in the rock, you got to drill holes and anchor it. It's called anchoring. The footing has to be anchored into the rock and filled it up with chemicals. So God forbid, if there is an earthquake, the house should not slide down like what we saw at Badrinath and Kedarnath, It should not just slide down because that's a real possibility in an earthquake because there's a lot of lateral thrust on a building. So these are the challenges. But the bigger challenge, okay, we solved that problem. Then the whole house came in bits and pieces from factory in Pune. And then the challenge happened that how do you start assembling because there's no crane.
Mhm.
All my steel had to go down 45 feet down, manually carried by people, and then raised up 45 feet. And I got scared because then I realized, my God, I had not anticipated something like this. So every morning at 7 o'clock, I would go to the site to make sure those guys, they don't run away. Because I was worried the fabricator, if he runs away, only he knew which part went where. It's like a huge jigsaw. Imagine it's a jigsaw with parts.
Yes, sir.
That was a nightmare. And I would every day go to the site because the client will kill me. He said, you have this fancy idea. You build it. Now, I don't know how to build it. I mean, the guy who's supposed to build it, he's run away. So what do you do? So that was a bigger challenge. And that was a learning thing for me that when you're doing it with, see, if you have a brick or cement or something, we can carry it down. But imagine beams which are 40 feet long. You can't, I mean, one person can't carry it. You require like 3 or 4 people carrying it on the shoulder, going down the mountain, raising it up again with a winch. My God, it was a nightmare. So, yeah. So the challenge of not cutting the roots of the tree while digging the holes and then assembling things. So it was one hell of an experience.
Yes. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Sir, so my question to you was like while designing on contour side, how and what rule should we follow so that we can design it well for physically challenged people as well at the same time?
You saw that Machan, there's a ramp, there are no steps. Okay. So the best thing is to give a ramp. So if anyone with a wheelchair or even with crutches is able to walk and enter the property, you know. So that is what you do. You keep your doors of the bathrooms pretty wide. You keep enough spaces so people, physically handicapped people, are able to move around on a wheelchair or on the crutches. So these are the, if you see my Machan, if you see Waterfall House, if you see Samir Shah's house, the Eagle's Nest, if you see Eye on the Lake, they all have a ramp. Because most of these places are, they were not designed as resorts, but they became resorts. Eye on the Lake is a resort, they rent it out. Machan is a resort, they rent it out. Eagle's Nest is not, but the owner's father was pretty old. He was in his late 80s, so it was one of the design criteria that he should be able to visit the place without having any problems. So that's one of the things that you take care as a designer, that even if it's not a requirement of the client, you still try to make your house accessible to everybody. It should be child friendly so that kids are also able to enjoy the property. It should be senior citizen friendly so they are able to move around. So I think that's a basic thing that one should, without anybody telling you, you should be able to do it yourself.
Sir, and also like while dealing with like on the larger scale, like an institution or a commercial project which is happening on a contour side, is it a good choice to have like electrical, mechanical elevators or something like that?
Whether it's always better to have, you can have it as an option one, mechanical things, because India being India, half the time if the electricity is not there, or even if you have a DG, there's always a time lag. So it's always better that you have your, it's part of your design. It should be part of the DNA of your design that you design it for senior citizen and use mechanical means wherever it's possible. And but keep option B as part of your design, that if everything fails, you still are able to go with a ramp and all.
That the project in the Khadako Asla also having a deck below the house means how that idea came, like to make the even the structural system also beautiful and approachable.
See, the structure should be beautiful. I think structure is what has happened with RCC buildings. We hide the structure. The columns get hidden in the walls. The beams get hidden again in the walls, or you put a false ceiling. So we got used to the idea that the structure is something not to be seen. But if you go a little bit, if you go back in time, you would see the structure was part of the architecture. You would see the domes, you would see the arches, you would see the flying buttresses, you would see everything. You would see if it was a truss, you would see a beautiful wooden truss. So the structure was something to be celebrated. It is not something that needs to be hidden. It's not something that you're ashamed of. Yeah. So I enjoy structure, and I like to design structure as much as I love to design spaces. So that is one of the main criteria, that you make a structure as beautiful as possible, as efficient as possible, and let it not be hidden. And the other thing is, it's always, we never see the building from the bottom. What you call is a worm's eye view. So I like to get a worm's eye view of my buildings. I can't get and if possible, I also like to get a bird's eye view. So that's why you have the crow's nest and then the eagle's nest, that you can go up and you can see the building from down. Yeah.
Yes, sir.
So you get both the thing, worm's eye view and the bird's eye view.
Yes, sir. Actually, it was like a drone photography kind of thing, which you directly see from our eye.
Yeah.
What was the biggest change that you saw in the designs as you shifted from the urban landscape to the unruly lands of the hills and the contours?
Ananya, I graduated in 86. I worked in Bombay for a couple of years. I shifted in 88 because I thought Bombay was not the place for me, because either you end up doing working for builders or you end up doing interiors. And in those days, there was no third option. So I said, I'd rather go to a place where I can do what my heart tells me and what I can enjoy doing it, and that I'm not ashamed of doing. So I shifted to Lonalava. So the one thing that, because I was born and brought up in Bombay, so I'm a Bombay guy. Nature was never part of my landscape. Your landscape is only buildings. So when I shifted to Lonalava, the biggest thing that I realized, what is the most imposing thing, are the mountains. Yeah. And what you see the mountains is the roofscape. So I started saying, oh, wow, because you see the skyline of Lonalava, you see these mountains going up and down and they're different shapes, and it's beautiful. That is what defines Lonalava. So I said, okay, I'm going to make the most beautiful roofscapes. And that's what I started doing, that my building will have the nicest roofscape. Second is what you see in Lonalava, when you see the mountains, the play of light and shadow, because the mountains are not like a wall, flat surface. When the light falls on it, you see some parts being bright, some parts being in the shadows. And that's what you start doing with your architecture, that you start playing with light and shadows. So these are the things. So you forget about the two-dimensional surfaces. You say, okay, how can I make my building mimic a mountain? And that becomes the inspiration. So shifting to Lonalava was, first you have to unlearn what you learned all your life in college, because this is not what they teach you in college. So you got to learn on your own. You got to be your own teacher. You got to learn to observe. You got to learn to listen to nature. And then you internalize it, and then you start designing. And as far as working with steel, I don't know. I mean, I was I was extremely confident with material as steel also. I had worked with bricks, I had worked with stones, and I had worked with concrete, but I had no apprehension that how do I work with steel? Because you know that steel, you know the materiality, what steel can do. And you just go ahead and try and explore it as much as possible. So that's what I did.
Like in general, how comfortable are the clients with the idea of working with reused material?
Sahil, if I were to give credit to my architecture, what I'm doing, I would say more than 50% the credit goes to the client. Because what you saw is 99% the clients will not accept what you want to do. These are like mad ideas. Once it's built, then it looks obvious. But to tell a client that make a tree house, I mean, try it. You say, are you mad or what? What are you talking about? If you tell a client you want to make a house on a waterfall, so unless the client does not, because we are dreamers, but you need somebody to believe in your dreams. If somebody doesn't believe in your dreams, you just stay as a paper architect. You just have beautiful drawings and nothing built. So I would say I'm just been blessed with people who believe in you, believe in your dreams, and they give you an opportunity to do it. So I think 99% the credit should go to the clients to allow me to do these kind of stuff. Yeah, and never challenges. I mean, unbelievable amount of challenges. You have no idea what goes on, but they still stick around with you and they say, okay, let's do it. Because halfway down the line, they can always say, oh my God, what did I get into? But no, they have the spirit of let's do it and let's see it to its logical conclusion. So that was what it is.
How do you work out the toilets and the services part in the treehouse? Did you face any problems doing the drainage in the contour side?
Have seen the work of Renzo Piano, Sir Norman Foster, where the services are exposed. So don't hide it. Just let it be exposed. Whatever your services are there, your drainage pipe, you can see it, you can see the water supply pipe. So you get into a problem if you try to hide it. But if you are confident and you work it out nicely, then you do not have it. And then you have a great architects like Renzo Piano and Sir Norman Foster to quote to the clients, yes, let the services be exposed. Why do you want to hide it? So no, it was not a problem. I just let it work it out nicely and I exposed all of them. So whenever you visit Machan, you'll be able to see all the pipes.
Okay, we are exposed to a lot of presentation.
I'm sure.
But we enjoyed your presentation is what I want to tell you from my heart. Thank you so much for being with us.
My pleasure. Yeah? My pleasure. Absolutely.
Over to Ayushi. Yeah.
Yes, so I guess if there are no questions currently, we can end the session. And once again, I would like to thank you so much for doing this session with us. It was very informative for us and really very interesting. I mean, the designs that we usually do in college are kind of constrained to, like you said, the IS codes. And then obviously, I mean, we're learning right now, but I think it gave us an opportunity to look at what is possible other than what we are learning too. So again, thanks very much. And surely once, if college opens, please do visit us in college as well. It would be great.
And thank you, Ayushi, and thank you everybody for having me with you. It was a pleasure. It was a pleasure. And you want to visit any of these structures, do let me know. I'll arrange it so you can go and see it firsthand. Whatever I can. If Machan and all is difficult because it's a resort, but the rest of the things, I'll try and arrange it. If you are curious about it, it would be my pleasure.